All right, folks, this is Harris Sultan. And as you guys know, I've been interviewing Westerners who either converted to Islam or for some reason drawn to Islam. I have spoken with two American ladies in the past. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. I'll include the links at the end of the video and maybe in the description as well. And now I have my first American ex-Muslim with me, Damon, who has graciously agreed to share his story with you. And I want to keep this going because I think these videos are, in a way, cautionary tales, and I think the world should know about this. I've always said people who convert to Islam, they should read the fine print. And what better way to learn more about it than the people who have lived it? So, Damon, welcome. Thank you for sharing your story. Just to start off, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where were you born? What kind of childhood did you have? Just tell a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Damon Stingo. I'm in my mid to late 20s. I live in the Midwestern United States and was also born here. Basically, I'd say like I was born and raised in Christianity. My father being a lot more religious than my mother. My mother, not so religious, but some of that kind of caused differences in them, along with some other personal matters. Obviously, there was like a lot of trauma in my childhood. Like, I'm not going to mention like the details, but enough that like the parents are fighting all the time and all that. And my father being the way he is, like I try to force religion, like Pentecostal Christianity. That was the specific branch of Christianity that I remember being raised with. And I tried to force it, on my mom, me, and my older sister. And obviously, like, yeah, we went along with it, but it's like we kind of saw through the hypocrisy behind it. And eventually, my parents divorced, and he moved out and went on to marry his third wife. And then, and then he got in trouble with the law over something. I mean, the personal details I won't exactly mention, but he's out of my life and all that. So now I get to focus on myself and explore. So I get my first taste of freedom. But I'm still very vulnerable. I'm still this very vulnerable kid, like, because I also have autism, ADHD, possibly PTSD, all that. Like, so naturally, when you're from that kind of background, you're gonna want to find like a place of belonging. You want to, just whether it's just exploring oneself or just finding the right groups of people. It doesn't matter who it is. Like, I was just the type of person that was just very neutral. Like, I want to find guidance from the right set of people. Because it's because some more personal things like happened in my family, like after my father left, and like those definitely did leave scars on us. So, like, yeah, that's just basically my background, and condensed, just like that.
Fair enough. So you felt a little bit out of place, and as you said, you were looking for something that was different uh, from your past journey. So where did Islam come into your life?
Yeah, so I started researching Islam. Like, I obviously knew that there was a Quran, and it was also the same Abrahamic God as like Christianity and Judaism. Some differences from what I heard, but like, I didn't think that much about it up until like I started researching and then having some discussions, and then I start running into some
How old were you around that time?
I was just a 17-year-old kid. Just, I was in that like little age where I was like a little bit naive about, people taking advantage of others. Like, I do know like there is some statistics in which like autistic people are a lot more vulnerable to religious exploitation. I do want to place emphasis on this. So, because in my experience with autism, I observe information like a sponge. I I like to mimic the traits of other people around me because that's just naturally how I am. That's just my experience with like having this neurodevelopmental disorder. So basically, where Islam comes into play is that, as I said, I was discussing with this, like they were Shiites, but they told me, hey, just get this free Islamic literature from online, and I did, and I started reading a little bit of the Quran, like, and then came the mosque, and I saw a post from Facebook that said coffee, cake, and true Islam. And this was by the local masjid in my town. Now, the specific branch of Islam that masjid is from is like the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. So I see like a post on Facebook that says coffee, cake, and true Islam, and I decided to visit it. I meet with the guys there. I sat down with them and said, "Hey, I just want to learn. Like, I'm not here to judge. I'm just here to learn." And of course, like we sat down. I would visit them like every Tuesdays of the week. I had nothing else to do outside of school, so that's what I'd do. Like I'd sit down with them and have conversations. Like they tell me, all the Dawah rhetoric that all the campaigns of Muhammad were defensive. Muhammad fulfilled all of his treaties. Basically, keep supposedly keeping one's promises and observing terms of the treaty, and that Muhammad was not brutal in any of his warfare. Like they would try to, at least in my experience with talking to them, they tried to avoid talking about the hadiths. They would just only focus on Quran, and whenever hadiths were brought into question, they basically just say that oh, it's just out of context, or oh, like this is why it was done. They do like apologetics, like that sort of thing. But otherwise, like I'm getting hooked into it. I'm getting like really just completely sucked into it. Like there was just like some sort of magnetism with the dawa that they were presenting, because the way they would act, they would just make themselves look logical. They'd make themselves look that they're being completely reasonable.
And welcoming
Yeah.
too. But did you understand the difference between Ahmadi Islam and the mainstream Islam? Those of you who don't know, Ahmadi Islam started in the early 20th century by this man called Mirza Ghulam Ahmed in India. And it is considered a heretical form of Islam. The vast majority, I would say, every other sect of Islam does not recognize Ahmadi Islam as Islam. So did you actually at that point understand the difference between the two?
Yes, yes. Like as a matter of fact, when I told that Dawa, that person that I was mentioning earlier, I told him, hey, they're Ahmadis, and they said, okay, but just be careful because they believe in another prophet after Muhammad. But I still like I take lessons from them because like I liked the way they explained Islam better than the other Muslims. Like I did visit like a Sunni masjid, but I don't know, I kind of got bad vibes with them for some reason, but yet somehow I failed to see it with the Ahmadis because, in their tabligh, that's what they call it for their version of da'wah, uh, they're very good at making themselves appear welcoming. Like they will accommodate you with food, water, coffee. Just the program that I mentioned earlier. It's no longer called that. I forgot the name of what the program is now, but it used to be called Coffee, Cake, and True Islam. At least here in the United States, I don't know how they do their tabligh programs in other countries.
So you were drawn to their smiling, happy, welcoming way of proselytization. And I must add this point that the Ahmadi community is severely persecuted in Pakistan and not in India, because India is a secular state, but in Pakistan they are severely persecuted. So they do extract a lot of people from Pakistan, and I think they spend a lot of money too. It's very cult-like. The only other example that I can think of is it's like the Church of Scientology. They're very insular. They keep it to themselves, and they have big bucks. So it's not mainstream Islam. However, the reason why you actually found it more appealing or better than the mainstream version of Islam or the Sunni Islam is because, yeah, they do tend to reject all the hadiths and pretty much all the subsequent history or literature that came after the Quran. So when did you first start seeing the red flags?
Yeah, so basically, like I said, I get drawn into this religion. I convert within probably two months of meeting these people. So it was a very fast decision making process, and right away I felt like I
Is it because they kind
was.
of suck you in? They always want
Yeah,
to
yeah,
sign you up?
and
Yeah.
and this is where I wanted to add earlier to what I said about how I like the way they explain things, because their dawa, it's not exactly in accordance with the Orthodox Islam. Like yes, like on the surface, like they'll have the same talking points of dawa apologists that like what I mentioned earlier, all the wars of Muhammad were defensive and all that, and but they where they differ with the Orthodox Muslims is that they don't believe that Adam was the first human on the earth, but that humans are a byproduct of evolution. And they also cite, like, I guess, some certain sayings from the Sufi poet Ibn Arabi, that where he supposedly saw like a vision of several atoms circulating around the Kaaba. So they cite that in their commentary of the Quran as proof that there was more than one Adam and that humans are a byproduct of evolution. But yeah, just as you said, like they reject the traditional hadiths that talk about the creation of humans, and then with the Quranic verses that explicitly states that Adam was the first human, they basically do like a lot of mental gymnastics to reconcile the Quran with evolution. And honestly, I was never able to reconcile that cognitive dissonance. And I would definitely say that was definitely a contributing factor in me becoming eventually dissatisfied with this religion, even with Ahmadiyya. And I mean, obviously, it took many years, but these people also like to draw people in. They like to cite, people having certain dreams, and that, oh, I saw this, and that was my truth. I had something like that as well, but now that I look back at it, it's like those really don't help you in answering arguments that people present against this religion. It doesn't refute the fact that this religion has holes in it. I'll get to that later. But yeah, that was one thing that I could not feel satisfied in my heart. Like I kind of just forced it on myself because I didn't want to admit to myself that I was wrong to join this religion. But anyway,
It's a failed attempt by them because I know I've heard some Sunni scholars lean towards this explanation as well. Those who want to marry evolution with the Adam and Eve story, uh, but they can't reconcile the fact that in the Quranic story of Adam and Eve were kicked out of heaven. Is that one of the points that was bothering you too?
yeah, because the way they explain it is like in their tafsir of the Quran, the 5 volume commentary, or which is based from an Urdu tafsir that their second Khalifa did. It's called the Tafsir Kabir.
Yeah.
Basically, it mentions that the paradise that's mentioned in the Quran, it's just basically this place somewhere in Iraq, Mesopotamia. So they kind of take from the Christians, and they say that this this Jinnah that Adam and Eve were in, it was not like the spiritual Jinnah that comes in the afterlife, but rather it's basically this garden-like paradise on Earth that was
Oh.
basically a nation that Adam was supposed to lead. Like this was before, like, uh, I guess how they say it is that Adam was the first person to be given a civilization to lead, like a nation to lead, and so How
Okay.
they interpret getting kicked out of paradise is that all the verses that talk about Adam and Eve being deceived by Iblis, it was all metaphorical, and that this satanic individual, it was basically someone that was just really jealous of Adam, and they try to base it from a weak hadith where I guess the name of the individual is mentioned. I forgot the name of it and what that hadith exactly said, but they take from a lot of obscure sources to try to build up their narratives. So, uh, like basically everything's metaphorical. Everything, Adam and Eve stitching the leaves on themselves. That's also a metaphor for basically covering up their shortcomings. That's, oh, this thing happened in our nation and now we're facing a trial, so basically Allah commands them to cover up their faults. They're forgiven of their faults. Like it's just a whole bunch of mental gymnastics. Like, and whenever you try to explain this to your traditional Muslim, they will laugh at you. They will laugh at you.
As if their story is any better. But anyway, okay, so this is one of the points that actually is bothering you. So within a couple of months, you converted to Ahmadi Islam, and now, as you said, you want to study, you want to learn more, and now your mind is starting to see these holes in it. How long did this stage of you being an Ahmadi Muslim last?
7 years, 7
Oh,
years.
wow.
So like I was really into it for many years, and it wasn't until the very end that although all those questions that I had about the faith that I kept suppressing just came out in full force. Uh, like there was like several things. Like I was really big into Dawa, online Dawa. I was really big into online tabligh. Like I wanted to preach Ahmadiyya. I did YouTube videos. I made Twitter threads.
Oh,
Like I would just passionately defend the faith. And then comes the Reddit ex Ahmadis, and they start posting, and I start engaging with them, and through them I discovered a lot of information that I didn't even know about the community. Like they were talking about questionable references in Mirza Ghulam Ahmed's literature. And at the time, I'm like, but this literature is the most logical literature I've ever read. Like, how could people say that? And then they'd show like references where Mirza Ahmed said some very misogynistic things about women. And one reference that I remember reading, it's contained in like a collection called The Essence of Islam, which is just writings of Mirza Ghulam Ahmed collected that talk about Islam itself. And in one reference, it just basically said that women should not become soldiers. And any women that participates in the battlefield, I guess something like she disgraces her honor or something like that. I don't exactly remember what it says, but I do remember how I felt from reading that passage. So I kind of felt very uncomfortable. But of course, I let that doubt like slide. I ignore it, and I remember, oh, right, this religion helped me to improve my life. Like I have to remember, it helped me to recover from my trauma. Like that was just one of many things that I just willfully ignored for years until I couldn't, which I will explain as we go on.
did you actually run into the critics of Ahmadi Islam, like Sohail Ahmed?
Yeah. Like I would actually have really good conversations with Sohail Ahmed. Like of course I would argue with him, but I wanted to understand why he left. So I realized like to give fair treatment of somebody else's argument, sometimes it's very important to read their perspective. So I read a little bit of his book. I forgot the title of it, but I read some passages out of that book, and I remember, okay, like
So did he have a
he's just
good?
questioning the faith, and he said that he sent it to the Jamaat, and they
He
still were
did.
never able to answer it. But it's been like 5 years since I last read that book, so I don't exactly remember all the details. I just only remember my reactions to them. But also, there was another thing about Sohail Ahmed that had an effect on me. Just the way he would explain things in a logical and coherent manner. That I would be a little bit envious of him of how well he would conduct his arguments and how well he would use critical thinking. And overall, he's just a very nice individual. So I kind of
He's
felt like he was
too
using the
nice. He's too
teachings
nice.
of what we were taught to do tabligh with, as well as like have proper tarbiyat, being used in reverse. Like I would just get really nervous around him, and then several other Reddit examids that I would engage with. And there was another Reddit examity that showed me something, and he made a whole thread on Twitter about how the Ahmadiyya Jamaat would fabricate numbers in the late 90s and early 2000s. So in 2001, they claimed that 81 million people joined the Jamaat. That was proven to be a fabrication.
Oh,
And they tried to cover it up, or they tried to explain it away. But the fact that they fabricated numbers and they don't have a satisfactory answer to why the numbers went sky high then suddenly dropped after 2002, or after Mirza Masroor Ahmed becomes a Khalifa. They don't have an answer. And it's like, okay, why? I would wonder in my head, like, why are they not addressing this, or why are they not talking about this stuff? Like, I never heard of this before. So back to that thread, like, I never heard this before, and I don't see a proper answer by any of our defenders. Maybe I should try to investigate and answer it myself. But I never found like a good answer. Like I heard that I guess their fourth Khalifa did a couple sermons on the numbers and how he admitted, we're sorry we couldn't prove that these numbers were real, and that I guess there was somehow an error. And it's like, yeah, very very fishy, very fishy. At least part of me said that. But I was still like, oh no, Ahmadiyya, Islam Ahmadiyya is the truth. It's facts. It helped me rebuild my life. It was just the lies that I just kept telling myself. I do want to add another thing. I did think of leaving the Jamaat in 2019, but the guy who converted me convinced me to stay, and he just used very, and at that time I wasn't confident in myself to engage with him in arguments. Like, I was afraid that he would defeat me in an argument, so of course I'd back down. And he'd keep me, he basically just uses his metaphorical stick, keep me in line, just be a good Ahmadi, just stay in your lane.
but there was no violent intimidation from any of
No,
them. No.
no,
Yeah, so
no,
that's
they're
where
more
the
passive about
mm,
everything they do.
right.
So once again, like, I have this religious revival. I start reading more of Mirza Ghulam Ahmed's books to get me reindoctrinated, because I don't want that other guy doing that to me, so I'll just do it myself. I had this weird pride that, what, I'm gonna give the best arguments for this community. I'm gonna give the best answers to everyone, and I'll show all these. I'll show myself. I'll show all these.
That's how most Muslims become ex-Muslims.
Yep. I'll show all these Reddit Ahmadis that I have the best responses, and that Islam Ahmadiyya changed my life, and that I'll show them everything. So that's what I do. Like, I try to type out many threads. I make videos, occasionally with other Ahmadis, like Ahmadi Answers and Khurram Shah. I would often do. I used to do a podcast called Shah and Stingle with Khurram Shah, and that's the brother of the ex Ahmadi Bashir Shah, who runs the Ahmadiyya Fact Check blog. I did an interview with him last year, but yeah, like, I do all these things to try to keep me engaged, and little do I realize I'm spending a lot of time on the internet, but yet I'm not really necessarily looking at the bigger picture of what's going on. Because I do know there was one point where the guy who converted me he took me aside and said, "Hey, Damon, we should think about getting you married. You're young.
How
You
long
gotta
into your conversion did this happen?
5 years. I want to say 5 years. So this was like I want to say 2020 to
Okay.
2021.
Let me get the timeline right. So for the first 5 years of your conversion, you find yourself debating and arguing and defending your faith, but at the same time, you're also having some doubts or some thoughts, but
Yep.
you're suppressing them because you want to be a good Ahmadi boy and you want to remind yourself that, hey, it's going to relieve me from my past trauma. This is my new life. And that's how you
That
got into it.
cognitive dissonance that I
Mhm.
mentioned earlier. That wanting, because it's basically me not wanting to admit that I got deceived and that I was wrong, but I kept ignoring those warning signs in my guts. I kept ignoring all the warnings that the various ex-Ahmadis that I would discuss with warned me. But I would also have like some conversations with people. Some of them that used to be devoted Ahmadis. Now they themselves become hidden ex-Ahmadi.
Mm.
Some of them were born Ahmadis, and some of them were themselves converts. And then I'd see them either silently leaving or officially leaving Jamaats, and they would explain to me their stories, and it just left like like something in my heart where I'd be like, am I sure I want to join this faith? And around the same time, like as I said, where the guy that converted me said that you should get married, I do that, and I basically put my name on this program or this site that the Ahmadiyya Jamaat created. It's called Rishta Nata in Urdu language. I forgot what it means, but I do know
It means
Rishta means
relationships.
relationships.
Yeah.
But
It means
like
relationships. Yeah. It's like a
yeah.
matrimony kind of service. Yeah.
So originally, I put on there that I want to marry another convert because I was going by gut feeling in that it's probably best that I marry another convert, but I get assigned a counselor. So like that's what they do. Like for anyone that's looking for like a marriage, like they assign counselors. So some time passes by, and then I remember during the COVID time, in that same time frame that I was referring to earlier, like they would often do Zoom calls with everyone because everything was closed. Like we had to stay indoors. So what they would do to keep everyone active in the community is they would just do Zoom calls every week. And I remember one particular Zoom call. Their Naib Sutter, vice president, or Naib Amir, I'm sorry. Like
Cool.
I remember, like he was saying call in that call that look, we in our community, various Ahmadi men are marrying outside of the Jamaats at an alarming rates, and here we have all the women, the Lejna, being left behind. Nobody is marrying them, and we are looking for people to marry them. And please, like we need our brothers to be marrying these women. And like me being the naive individual I was listening to it, and I was like, huh,
You're about
maybe I
22,
should,
23 at
maybe.
that point?
Yeah, I was like 21, like.
Okay.
So it's like I was like, okay,
Where's your
I'll switch
family?
to.
How's your family dealing with this? You mentioned your sister, your mother. Are you in touch with them? How are they dealing with your conversion and your new life?
Like they were like they supported me, but they also felt that I kind of got a little distant from them in certain activities. I'd say like a little that disconnect because like
No more
me
Christmas.
growing up, like I used to go to rock concerts like in my teenage years, and I stopped going to those like after joining the community. So that kind of put a bit of a wall between us. And I'd also, since we're not allowed to like drink alcohol or eat pork, that would also like have a bit of a
Discouraged.
wall.
Islam sucks all joy out of life, as Nuria Khan says
Yep.
it.
Yeah. So like I was saying, like you know I switched my my preferences for a wife from like from another convert to a born Ahmadi one, because I couldn't find like any converts. Like they couldn't find me any converts, so I had to instead switch to born Ahmadi women. And like I said, I felt bad, so me being the
Are they from? Are they
what I
also
felt to
born?
be the good and dutiful Ahmadi Muslim
Are
man
they
that I
American
was.
born?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So but their parents are from Pakistan. So yeah, like eventually, like several months pass. I'm in the year 2021. I like late 2021. I want to say like the I want to say September. Yes, September. My counselor contacts me and he says, "Hey, we have a match for you." I said, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah, just take a look at their profile." So I take a look at it, and then on the surface, like we match like in everything. Like she likes Jamaat literature, I like Jamaat literature. She wants someone that's completely active in the Jamaat. I'm very active in the Jamaat. Like I'm basically the secretary of Tabligh of my local mosque, and I'm leading all these Tabligh programs. And she has her offices for her local mosque, and they're all the way on the East Coast, and I'm in the Midwest, so they drive to come see me, and I also bring my mom along because I want her to observe. I'm very glad that I did. Like, I'm glad that I did bring my mother along, because she would tell me years later, after everything happened, that she would just look at me and be like, Damon, I kind of wanted to tell you that's a very controlling family that you married into.
Hmm.
So, like I said, they come, and I meet with them. Me and my mom meet with them, my future wife and her parents. Like I have a very good discussion with them. Like it was just a bunch of smiles, a bunch of joyful occasion. And I also let them know, hey, I have like autism. I was diagnosed, and me and my mom would tell them, how I was diagnosed as a toddler, and then got therapy for it in childhood. And they're like, okay, okay. Well,
They
and
were
it's
okay
very
with it.
interesting. I do want to mention one thing. Like the guy who converted me basically tried very hard to convince me that I don't have certain autistic symptoms, and that he thought that, oh, maybe it's something else, like something else in the environment that made you that way. But I don't think you're autistic. I think Allah will heal you and give you abilities that you didn't know that you had before. Like magic, even though
Hmm.
these people are supposed to be, in theory, rationalist about everything with their beliefs in science. But that's, now that I look back at it, it's like, yeah, that's, I definitely, because when you're an autistic individual, you also naturally masks, and I was starting to form that big mask, that oh, I'm this persona, that I'm this good Ahmadi Muslim. I'm very dutiful to my Jamaat. I will do whatever the Khalifa says. Like I look like, if the Khalifa says something, I will do it. And if I had that mindset, and that mindset is what eventually fucked me over
Hmm.
really bad. And this is where I'm gonna talk about that, marriage. So.
So just before you go into that, because I think that's the crux of your story. But up until this point, I also want to mention Sohail Ahmed, because you mentioned him. He's an amazing person. He's the only ex-Muslim from the Ahmadi community. There's his channel, Reason and Faith. There's a lot of educational videos there, which I know he worked really hard, the way he structured it. I think he came out as an ex-Muslim back in 2021, maybe 2020, I believe. So
I
he was
think it
a
was 2019.
okay. Yeah, that makes sense. But you were aware of him at that point as well, but you were not ready to leave Islam yet. Ahmadi Islam is also like, it may look very cushy and cuddly on surface, but they have a very strong hold on its followers. So as you said, that there are a lot of people who were secretly Ahmadis, but they wouldn't come out. Sohail Ahmed, when he came out, I remember hearing a lot of stories. A lot of people started coming out and started leaving Ahmadi Islam as well.
Yeah, yes. I didn't really watch Sohail Ahmed's video because I don't know. I think I was more focused on doing my own thing. I kept listening to advice of some people, in that don't listen to ex-Ahmadi content too much. Like, I actually heard the advice straight from the Khalifa himself in a video that he did like many years back. And it was basically that something like, don't listen to those that have left the Jamaats, like, because they have their own personal enmity, and that's personal enmity basically makes one susceptible to telling lies, all that nonsense. So I listened to the advice, and then
It means we're doing something good, because I spoke with Angelica as well, and she was also told, don't look into these ex-Muslims. So it's good to know that, they are really scared and worried about us.
yeah, even the guy that converted me, he kind of started telling me, "Hey, try not to interact with them too much, because and the excuse was, you're just wasting your time. You're not going to change their minds."
Oh,
Several actually Ahmadis came up to me to tell me that, but I didn't listen. I'm someone that's like, no, I want to give the best arguments to Jamaat, and I want to restore everyone's faith in Jamaat, and that was just before the whole marriage thing.
okay. So let's get into your
But
marriage.
this is where I want to mention my own personal situation, because as much as I tried to ignore the ex-Ahmadi arguments, like brush it off to the side, or like, oh well, they never had my experiences, so why should I like say, like, whatever bad experiences they had in Jamaats, like, it never happened to me, so it's like, why should I believe them? Or I want to be the best representative of this Jamaat. I want to be the best representative of this movement. So, but on the inside, little did I know how much their counter arguments to the points that I made, like, kind of had an effect on me. And then came the Nida Ul-Naeem scandal. I didn't really pay attention to the audio recordings until like just before I left the Jamaat, but
Briefly
from what
tell
I
us,
heard,
briefly what was.
like, I did know of the part where the Khalifa told his niece Nida Ul-Naeem that
Shut
4
up.
witnesses are required to prove that a rape happened, because there's a whole bunch of there's an audio recording of the whole leaked phone call that's present on YouTube. I didn't watch it until like after I started questioning, and just before I left the Jamaat. But still, though, I did hear some pieces, and I was kind of somewhat a little bit disturbed. I do remember from their sites, alislam.org, where it talks about, does Islam. I don't remember the name of the article, but I do remember when it was around that it cited a hadith in which I guess a woman got raped, and then she went straight to Prophet Muhammad, and Muhammad told her, okay, point to the man and then we will stone them. So basically, the guy who wrote the article basically said that, see, Islam says that there's no witnesses for rape, and that if a rape happened, all you have to do is point to them, and then the Sharia will punish them. However,
FBS.
yeah, exactly, and even the Khalifa basically said so too, that no, that's BS, and that's the site is wrong. And when that was said, and after the transcript was leaked, silently the Jamaat took down that article because the Khalifa contradicted them, and they did it without explanation.
Just tell the public a little bit about it, because this actually is a good example to show how secretive and how cultish this organization is, or this whole establishment is. So that was Khalifa's own niece who got violated by another Ahmadi, and when she tried to make a complaint
Her
about him,
own father.
oh, well, was it her own father? Yes. So when
Yeah.
she tried to go to the community, to the Khalifa, he said, you need 4 witnesses.
Yeah, it was pretty clear that the Khalifa himself was kind of compromised in the audio, because there are some that audio recording kind of showed me that there are powerful forces that are controlling him, and that he's really not the
Benevolent. He's not some
he's really
benevolent.
not this leader that protects everyone, and that he has all the cards, when the reality is it's just people from behind the scenes advising him, telling him what to do. So Yeah, it's definitely a very disturbing recording because she doesn't just talk about her experiences, but she also talks about how inept the Nizam or the Jamaat administration. She would talk about just how there's so much indecency going on, and the Khalifa was just basically accusing her of being, but she would bring up points where she would say, "No, no, I was molested many times, and this kept happening to me over and over." And the Khalifa would be like, "Well, why didn't you speak up earlier?" And then she would explain, "Because my therapist said that." Oh, my trauma response is I
Mm.
freeze, I can't do, and that's what psychology says about like a
Happens
lot of
to,
those with
yeah.
PTSD. Like clearly she's exhibiting signs of
Mm.
PTSD, and it's not that she's and say something happened to her many times, and you can't deny that. And for them to just brush it under the rug and just say don't talk about it, it's indecency. Like I think even though at the time like I didn't watch that much, and I also
Again, you were suppressing your doubts. You didn't
yeah,
want to know.
I it did definitely have a bit of an effect on me. So that's kind of what pushed me to just become even more faithful that oh maybe I'm not being a good enough Ahmadi. I should just keep striving. I should just keep praying and all that stuff, fasting, all that stuff. You know,
I can never understand human brain, how sometimes it reacts and yeah. But anyway, carry on. So that
so I
all of
get
these things are happening and then you get married.
yep, and so I get married, and in like the spring of 2022. Well, my wife comes to live with me like in the Midwest, and just before we moved with her parents on the East Coast, we also and that's where we also conceived our child. Like, because I also have a daughter. Unfortunately, I did not win the custody battle. Like, but still, like, I have a daughter, and then we moved to the East Coast. We lived with her parents because under the basically like she had to go to college at the time. That's what I was told, and of course, me being the good person that I am, like, I went with it. And she finishes her college, but we're now the plan was now we're gonna save up for a home because we're gonna live with her parents so that we can save up for a home, and that's how we're gonna build our future for our family. So we have our kid too, like, but I could tell like I tried to build like a good relationship, with my ex-wife, but like I noticed that the way she expresses her emotions is different than mine, at least from what I'm culturally used to. Because while yes, it is true that they were born and raised in America, her parents are from Pakistan, so they
Mhm.
bring their own set of rules, and they're very tightly knit. It's definitely the embodiment of a Desi family.
Mm.
So
That's why I asked whether she's born and raised, because your trouble would have doubled had she been born in Pakistan. But even though she was born in America, you're right. This is going to be a massive cultural shock to you as well.
yeah, yeah, and then after our child is born, and like after I move in, which happened before our child was born, like I noticed some strange things, and I felt like whenever I'd propose something for the raising of our child, it would just get instantly rejected. I said, "Hey, if our child ends up being autistic like me, uh, I do want to help train her in like learning to manage certain emotions." And she would just reject me and said, "No, we're going to teach her not to stim because this handbook for Ahmadi Muslim mothers says so." Like, because they have a handbook for Ahmadi Muslim mothers, and it's called Paradise Under Your Feet.
Oh yeah. Oh wow, they use that too.
Yep. So, and the gender roles in that religion, especially in a traditional setting like the one that I saw, basically the mothers run the entire show. Like they are in charge of raising the children, because that's just how it's set up in that religion. And the husbands or the
Isn't that
fathers,
BS
they're
as
just,
well?
what's
Isn't that
that?
BS? Isn't that BS as well? Because even in Islam,
Absolutely. That
that's they're
honestly,
abusing
that
their
is what
power.
kind of caused a lot of tension in that marriage. Like I said, I'm not going to mention too many details, but I could tell we were starting to mutually heavily dislike each other because of our differences in our approaches. And I kind of felt like a lot of the rules were of the house that we were staying at were completely ridiculous. It's something that's completely outside of the norm. I was slowly starting to feel like, I mean, I was starting to feel it over the years when I would discuss with the Reddit ex Ahmadis. But once I started actually living with other Ahmadi Muslims, especially of the Pakistani kind, and keep in mind, I was like on board with it too. Like I was like, yeah, I want to be one of you. I want to be a Pakistani. Like I was like wearing a lot of Pakistani clothes.
Shalwar kameez. Why would you do that to
Yep, yep,
yourself?
sure, kameez, yep. Like during each, and then I was also, what I also couldn't stand about that experience as well is just like how a lot of other family members would come in all the time, every single day. It was just overwhelming. Like you don't have to like visit the house every single day, but but in their cultures, no, you have to host guests. You have to be respectful. It's a respect thing. Uh, and I was like, I get that, but can't we just have more? I didn't say it, but I just
You felt it.
blindly went with the flow because that
Hmm.
basically, yeah, that's basically what my wife would say. She'd be like, "No, this is the rules of the house. This is our rules. We have to go with it." And basically, I just kind of felt like it's just tradition, and I that was just one of many things that I just didn't sit right with me. Also, just me not feeling like I had a say in the raising of our kid. Like, and of course, also comes the postpartum stuff too. Like, oftentimes, like tensions do raise between couples, like in communication. So there was that too. But
There was a
yes,
massive, but there
that
was a
in
ma-
of itself wasn't that bad. Like what was bad was just how we were living with her parents and then in the
yeah.
presence of other family members
There was
as
a
well.
power
So
imbalance too. You're not in your house. You're in her house, and they
yeah,
are dictating every single rule.
yeah, precisely. And I kind of started to hate it. Like I kind of felt like I didn't have a say. Like I kind of felt like I am kind of glad though that I went into trucking at the time because I also went to school to become a truck driver, and I did. I became a truck driver for a while, and I'm actually very glad that I did go into trucking because that was just one of the only times I felt like I could be myself. I could
Mm.
be away from the presence of everyone. Like at first, I just wanted to improve my faith. Like I actually, as I mentioned earlier, since getting married and having a kid, I left social media for a year, and then I came back after I started trucking. I re-engaged in discussions with people and started reading more books. Started reading into philosophy and all that. Like started revisiting a lot of the old questions that I had about the religion. At first, it was just to improve my faith, but there was, but I did notice that I started acknowledging that a lot of our tabriqis, a lot of our apologists, kind of have bad arguments defending the community. Oftentimes, you hear in that religion that okay, we are the chosen ones of Allah Almighty. We are the community of the promised Messiah. We we are the best people, and no one can parallel us. Like, show us a community that has done so much good work in comparison to us. Yada 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 yada. Right? That's the same. I realized it's a circular argument. When I started studying logical fallacies a little bit more, I realized, yeah, that's actually a very incoherent argument because there are plenty of religious organizations that can equal Ahmadiyya in. I could cite various Christian
Hmm?
organizations that probably do even more than the Ahmadiyya, but but of course, like they're just gonna say no. They still have false beliefs, and that's
So now
a lot
you're
of mental gymnastics.
right. So you had questions before, but you were on your own, so that you didn't have that big an incentive to leave the faith. But now you're married to a woman, you have a kid, you're unhappy. Your life has changed for the worse. So now you're looking more into philosophy, and now you're truly investigating your new faith.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Basically, yeah. Like I start investigating, like, and I didn't even know it consciously, but like, because I still was trying to convince myself that, oh, maybe I'm not being a good Ahmadi Muslim, so I just want to do more good deeds for the sake of Allah. Like I want to do more tabligh, get myself away from my doubts and all that, or find something to do, and then just eventually, like, I started reading more, and then one day I come back home, right? Like I come back home, like we sleep for the night, like, and I offer to help with the baby for the night, and I think somehow, like, I'm very tired, like, from truck driving. It's also middle of the night, and I was supposed to, like, heat up my daughter's bottle properly. I didn't do it properly, and then later that day, it just was the final turning point. And my ex-wife straight up admits to me that she doesn't love me, and that's she's practically done. But what she wanted to do was she wanted to co-parent with me instead. And but in the back of my mind, I was like, maybe I'd agreed to that had we not been in this religion. But in this religion, it's really strict. That's not really a life of freedom. That's what I was like in the back of my mind. But I didn't mention all the details, but I just said, I'm not going to live my life like that.
Mhm.
I mean, if you want to be done with me, then, we're going to have to divorce. And then she emotionally blackmailed me and said that then you're going to have to explain to our daughter why you left.
All right. She'll find out when she sees you.
Yeah. And that was basically that hidden threat that, oh, I will take our kid from you if you do that. And then I even straight up told her that I might leave this community if this is the case.
Good.
And she's like, don't question your faith, like,
Oh,
don't do that, like. But I end up leaving the house for like a week, and then I come back. Her father reconciled us, but it did create tensions with the mother too. And I definitely, she started acting very passive aggressive with me. And
of course.
around the same time as well, like, I do want to add, like, several months earlier, I also got diagnosed with ADHD, and then I wanted to be put on medication so I can, like, handle tasks better and focus on my task better. Somehow that didn't sit well with the mother,
Really?
and
What have they got against
she
medication? It's the same Ahmadi faith
well,
thing that
because she
maybe
felt
pray
like,
more.
well, she felt I wasn't taking care of her daughter properly, and that she felt that maybe it was my disorder, and that somehow in the back of her mind she felt that I lied to her about not having autism. She, like, I don't know if it was a language barrier, but, like, from what she told me, she said, "Oh, you lied to us. You said you didn't have a neurological disorder, and now you do. Like, what's up?" And then she was like, "You and your mother both lied to me." I was like, "I didn't lie to you. I told you on the very first day that we met that I have autism. The ADHD part came later."
Yeah, which you didn't know. Yeah.
Yeah, so, and I just wanted to improve myself. Because I wanted to be a better husband, I wanted to be a better father, I wanted to be better Ahmadi Muslim in general, and yet still this is not enough for these people. And that's what's planted the seeds of distrust I had in that family. Because and also I want to come back to that disagreements, or that fight I had with my ex-wife, where she told me she didn't love it. She also told me other family members were telling her that some of my behaviors are not very good. I was like, oh, really? How come they're not telling me directly? And it's like, am I dealing with a bunch of two-faced individuals? And maybe I should consider the warnings that I've heard from other people, those that have left or those that are questioning the Jamaat. because now I kind of feel like I'm in that situation.
Okay.
So, like I
Who
said,
did you
I leave
talk
the
to then?
house for like a week and then I come back and like supposedly we're reconciled, but then we start having arguments over little things again. And then there was like one point where I could definitely tell that the tension was still there and that she was only going with it, going with this supposed reconciliation, I guess, just to preserve her image in the community.
That's a big deal for them.
Because,
Getting divorced is pretty bad.
yeah, especially in that community, like Ahmadi Muslim women, especially divorced ones, they're kind of looked down upon. And even in my case, like, that was another reason why I wanted to leave, because it was like, I too will probably be looked down upon in that community because of what happened between that family and I. So yeah, basically, like, the tension is still there. Like, I I kind of felt like in my gut that, yeah, we're just pretending. And around the same time, I reconnect with some old friends of mine, some people that I cut off from years ago when I saw that they became ex Ahmadi, and I said, "Hey, let's talk again." Originally it was just, I kind of felt like that. Oh, maybe I could help them to rejoin the Jamaat, but well, instead it was the complete opposite. It kind of helped me to answer more questions I had. They basically showed me a lot of references, a lot of questionable references from Mirza Ghulam Ahmed's literature, like his famous the Mohammadi Begum case. That one, it was already bad enough that his character came under question, that he wanted to marry a 14-year-old, girl, but then there's inconsistencies in the narrative about that whole ordeal, in that supposedly Mohammadi Begum was from a Hindu side of the family. Because keep in mind, Mohammadi Begum came from cousins of Mirza Ghulam Ahmed, so distant relatives. That's, I just want to clarify. But then I saw some references from both my friends as well as more books of Mirza Ghulam Ahmed that I've read, that they were actually Muslim, not Hindu. So I was like, wait a minute, why hasn't the Jamaat cleared this up? Like, it was already bad enough that he's going after a 14-year-old, but why is there inconsistencies in the narrative? And then also there's another thing, the famous miracle of red drops. And in this narration, one of the companions of Mirza Ghulam Ahmed was massaging his ankles, and he was having a vision of Allah appearing as a judge, and then he flicks his pen, and red ink goes everywhere, and supposedly the drops appeared in real life. There's some theories behind that maybe it was a bleeding iguana, but what's so fishy about that story is that in a book called Siratul, written by his Ahmed's son, Mirza, he said that the miracle happened in a small room in the Urdu language. That's the bathroom, so the shower room. And I was like, wait a minute, aren't Muslims like not supposed to, like, you know like, Muslims are not supposed to pray in there already. Muslims are also not even supposed to say salam while they're in the bathroom, and yet this guy is having a miracle in the bathroom. I'm like, wait a minute, that's a little questionable. Like, because I knew, because even by Islamic standards, that's like questionable. But I was already, like, at the time
On your way
wanting,
out.
yeah, but like, that was the seal for me that, okay, I'm done with this religion. Originally, I just wanted to stay hidden about my beliefs, but the way, my relationship between me and that family continued to deteriorate. I remember there was one day my former mother-in-law took me aside, and she was still being passive aggressive with me. She wouldn't even say salam to me since the fight with my ex-wife that one day. And of course, me being passive aggressive right back at her, I didn't say salam either.
Good.
My wife rebukes me for not saying salam to her mother, and then her mother tells me, "You're really disappointed me, Damon." And I was like, "Why? What's the matter?" And, like, I didn't confront her, but then a couple of days pass, and then I finally sat down with her and said, "Hey, listen, I'm sorry that the thing happened. I'm sorry that I upset you. I hope you can forgive me." And then she was like, "No, it's not that. It's just that you're not changing as an individual, and that you still lied about not having autism." And I was like, "What? I told you that on the first date." And I kind of felt like that she was basically herself lying. Like, I don't know if it was the language barrier, but something just felt not right.
How is your financial situation now? You are employed, you are driving a truck, and the original aim was to save up as much money as you can so you can buy a house for yourself. How are you doing on that front? Did you not think, or did your ex-wife not think that maybe things will change when you move to your own house?
Like, it was just, and basically she just had the vision that we'll stay with her parents until we have enough money saved up for a house, and then we buy it, because she didn't want our kid to live in an apartment for some reason. That she just wanted our kid to just be raised in a safe and comfortable environment.
Which is fine. So how are you doing? Were you saving money?
Yeah,
Was that
yeah.
okay?
Like, I was doing well financially. Like, it was a bit slow at first when I got the job, and then I got my own route, and then started making decent money. So
Mm.
we had plenty saved up. But of
Okay.
course, like,
But your relationship was going down. It was deteriorating.
yeah, it was I could clearly tell that there was always a disconnect between us, and that I don't and that it kind of felt like that the entire relationship kind of felt forced on both ends, and that it was only just to preserve both of our images in the community, and not because we truly love each other.
Yeah.
I think
That's what
for
arranged
I
marriages are
think for
like.
both of us it was peer pressure to get married. That's my personal opinion.
You're spot on. You're 100% spot on.
But even though she makes it seem like it was all my fault, and that I was the bad guy and all that, but I think the reality is I don't think she truly wanted to marry. I mean, that's the vibes I'm getting. Like, I don't, or maybe she did for a little bit, but then realized it's not my thing.
So when did you finally file for divorce? And how long had you been married for at that point?
It was after, well, she actually filed for divorce against me like nearly a month after I officially left.
Okay.
But
So
but the
when you
breakup
left, where did you
was,
go? Did you go back to your hometown, or you actually stayed in the East
yeah,
Coast?
yeah, I did. Once it was finalized, I went back to my hometown.
Okay.
But yeah, I do remember the day that we decided to break up. Like, I basically just, had the usual casual conversation, and then I told her, "Hey, I'm no longer Ahmadi." And then right away she was like, "Okay, then I'm divorcing you." And I
Oh
said,
yeah.
"Okay."
Good.
And then the rest is history. So and so what her father tried to do, like, he got a hold of the guy that converted me, and said, "Hey, Damon's thinking about," because both of those two guys are good friends in that community, so they know each other very well.
And you're telling me that he would not have told the family that you've got autism if they were really good friends?
And I don't think he. Yeah, that guy is the one that tried to convince me that I didn't have autism. I don't know what he told the family. I don't think he
I
told them
get
that.
it, but I'm sure they would have had this conversation at some point. So I'm just thinking that they put that all on you.
Probably.
They put that all on you. Maybe it was their fault because they did not want to believe that autism is a thing. Maybe it's
Yeah.
just once he converts, once he becomes a good Ahmadi boy, Allah will, do something, and his autism will be gone. So it was their fault, not your fault. And
Yeah,
you
exactly.
also
Like,
you also disclosed it to them, and now I'm convinced that is their fault, because if they were close friends, they would have had a conversation at some point.
hmm.
Anyway, so yeah, that all happened, and you're like, okay, I'm leaving this faith. I don't belong here anymore. I'm not happy in this marriage. You want to file for divorce? Fine. You go
Yeah,
back.
like my mental health was just completely, like, shattered by
Mm.
by the time, like, Like I was just starting to go through like basically a huge identity crisis, like the
Mm.
cognitive dissonance that built up over the years, like, and that mask that I created around myself, that persona just came shattering down. Like once, things went south in the relationship, and once I started sincerely investigating the faith and re-questioning my decisions, it was like, yeah, I think it's time to leave. So, I remember the day that I left, officially left. Like I got, someone helped me write my resignation letter, and I officially left on May 31st, 2024, and it caused like a shock to the entire social media. Like I think I posted about it on Twitter, and it got like nearly 100,000 views
Is it
because
still
the
up?
Muslims, the Sunni Muslims, I'm saying the the ones that are against Ahmadiyya, that are going
Jamaat.
complete takfir on them, they were elated to see me
Of course they were.
uh, leave, because I do want to mention that I did briefly join Sunni Islam for a little bit,
Okay.
but I quickly saw through their schemes too, very quickly, and I left within 3 months.
Did they try to recruit you now that you've
Yeah.
left?
Oh, yeah. They did. They did.
Yeah, makes
They
sense.
did. But the good news is, at least for me at the time, like I still kept like a part of my true identity with me. I didn't want to make that same mistake
Mhm.
as I did in Ahmadiyya. And then once I started reading a little bit of Sunni literature, I remember one Salafi book I was reading, written by a Salafi convert. I think his name is Anwar Wright. Like he's a Muslim convert living in Saudi Arabia, super Salafi, super indoctrinated. I remember something that he wrote in his book, that if you convert to Islam, you should move to a Muslim country so that the environment uh, supports your faith. And I'm like, yeah, I get cult vibes with this. I get cult vibes.
And when you think about leaving Islam over there, you will be
Yeah,
beheaded.
yeah, like yeah, I definitely started to question it, and also I started reading some commentaries about the hadith of Muhammad marrying Aisha at 9 years old, and Bukhari provides like some headers. So I remember in a couple headers he talked about fathers marrying their daughters below puberty. And so I read some of the commentaries on on an Arabic site, and some of those commentaries deeply disturbed me. Some of them said that if someone
Bukhari
you
provided this? Where's that? I've never heard of this. What, fathers marrying their own daughters? But Bukhari is giving.
yeah, it's from Bukhari. So basically, in the header, I remember it. It's kind of vague, but it basically said that it's a commentary. I remember, yes, the book of Tafsir. I think like
Yeah, but it's not mainstream. I'm not sure it's Bukhari saying that. I mean, it could be a commentary by someone,
right, right,
very obscure commentary, but Bukhari would not say anything like that.
right. So basically, like in the commentaries of that hadith, I remember reading that in some cases, and they cite a Quranic verse. I think it's from I want to say it's either 65 or 66. I don't remember, but a 3 month period
Oh
in
yeah,
which there's no menstruation.
yeah. That's 65, 64. The chapter 65, verse 64. Yeah.
Right, right. So I remember these scholars, they placed that hadith underneath that Quranic verse, and in those tafsirs on this Arabic sites, like I use like Google to translate, but I remember reading from them that in some cases, like people can marry even when they haven't hit puberty yet,
Yeah.
especially young girls, and that they
Mhm.
can actually stay with their husbands. And I was like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's pedophilia. I'm
That
sorry.
is it's actually worse than 9 years of age. So a lot of people say it's nine. Muhammad married Aisha 9 when she had reached the age of puberty. In a lot of other versions of Islam, Sunni Islam, it actually there's not even. I think Muhammad Ijab has even spoken about it too. that the condition is not even puberty. If she can endure intercourse, then it is permissible. However, it is up to the qazi to determine whether she can endure or not. And this is why they say, well, it depends if the girl is bigger than her age or whatnot. It's disgusting. So it's if you think 9 is bad, it can even go lower than that.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, some of the most disturbing material that I've ever read, and I was definitely already questioning, the character of Muhammad in that regard when I left the Ahmadiyya. But when I briefly joined the Sunnis, put my doubts aside for a little bit, but then clearly they weren't satisfied,
How
and
long did you
I
remain?
didn't want to
Sunni?
make like I didn't want to spend like another 7 years of my life in a religion that I would end up not believing in. Like I
Right.
think these people. I think I just got caught between these people showering me with praise, just like how the Ahmadis used to shower me with praise whenever I discuss my convert story.
Do you still have your
So
tweet up?
no, like
Okay.
I deleted
Okay.
the Twitter account. Like it is online. It is online. The screenshot is online,
Don't worry
but
about
like
it. No, that's okay. I was just curious to see the reaction from other mainstream Sunni Muslims because I know they must have been elated. They would have showered you with praises. They would have made fun of the Ahmadis, and then they would have asked you, "Brother, come join us." It's so predatory, isn't it? Like even at your point, and I noticed that with the story of Angelica as well. I've always known this, but it's good to put a face to these behaviors. It's so predatory. It's so unethical that when someone is going through a dark phase of their life, they approach you like a predator and then they sign you up like a dodgy insurance salesman, like sign up today, you get this and that. And one of the biggest selling points that they have is like, all your past sins will be wiped off if you join Islam now. And again, if someone is escaping from their past life, that's music to their ears.
yeah, I actually moved back to my hometown this year, but all this stuff that I'm talking about now, it happened last year. So, because during the divorce, I had to stay on the East Coast until it's finished. But like,
That would have taken 7, 8
basically,
months.
yep, uh, I want to say at least a year. Like I was still on the East Coast for at least a year. I had to move to a different town, but they definitely for sure showed me their true faces, just like and because they realized they couldn't control me anymore. So
What about your daughter? Are you allowed to see your daughter?
yeah, like I have visitation rights. I just don't have custodial rights because I
Or you live
ran
in a
out of money fighting that case. I tried to fight until I no longer had the means to financially continue.
and how were they paying for their legal bills? Were they getting any support from the Jamaat?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure because
Fair enough.
like after I left, I didn't even know anything about anything going on in their private lives. Like they're very private people.
No, but did that intrigue you? But anyway, you said that you are allowed to maintain your relationship with your daughter, but you live in a different state. Do you feel that you are in a better place now? Is your mental health recovering? And
Definitely, like I'm just glad to see my family again. Like I remember when I left, like my sister told me, "Hey, I always felt distant from you when you were Muslim, and I'm glad you're back because now we can have fun again."
mm, that
And
that's excellent. And look, I mean, and I'm drawing parallels here, but this is what I at the end of our conversation with Angelica, we spoke about that as well. She was trying to escape from her past life as well. And then she went through this experience. And when she came back to her former self or to her true self, that makes you appreciate your life even more. Maybe sometimes we need those experiences to
yeah,
appreciate what we had to begin with.
yeah, definitely. And like I kind of felt like I can think freely for myself because like free thought is just basically part of my nature. I can't have my thinking capped by a supposedly all-knowing God and this set of rules that I have to follow. But do want to add like a few more things like
Sure,
that I
absolutely.
forgot to mention earlier
Go
because
ahead.
I know this is a lot of deep stuff, a lot of we get lost in thoughts, and but do want to mention like a few more things. Like when I left the community, I definitely did have a massive backlash from the people. So they accused me of being a fraud, a phony. They also said, "How dare you leave your wife and daughter behind? How dare you do that? You're just one of those runaway dads that did a terrible thing to their wife and child, and you did that to them. How dare you?" And then I also got like 15.9 grand back from the community as well, because I paid 15.9 grand for 7 years through financial contribution. So they have a system called Chunda. And
Around the
originally, I paid a 7% rate for each paycheck, and then I joined this program called Al Wasiyat, which basically buys your way to heaven, and it's 10%. A heaven, so you can be buried in a supposedly heavenly graveyard, like so you can be shown that, oh, you were a saint and that you contributed to this scheme, so now you're one of the blessed ones.
That's a scam.
So I got deep in that as well, and I remember.
Did they voluntarily give you that money back? Because
Yeah, they did.
Oh.
They did it because there's a passage from the book Al Wasiyat that if you end up not satisfied, you can ask for your money back. And
oh wow,
and I got that money back, like 15.9 grand, and then it caused like a huge controversy because like I had a massive backlash from everyone about getting that money back, and they were like, "How dare you get all that Chunda money back? That's extremely selfish of you."
Right. Yeah, so it's not voluntary. They just tie it down by their own rules, but they don't want you to take it back.
So I have like a massive backlash by the people. And it was just so bad that, naturally, at the time, since I'm already pissed off from everything of being deceived for 7 years, I fight back, like in response to the massive backlash, I start bashing the character of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. I'm like, well, you guys follow a toilet prophet and that got revelations on the toilet. I started playing, I used a similar tactic that Sohail Ahmed used with his former colleagues. So in Ahmadi, they have this thing called ilzam, accusative answers, in which you point out to the literature of other people that are attacking you their own hypocrisies. So I started using a similar maneuver with the Ahmadis because I watched Sohail Ahmed for years. Like, usually he's not a very heated person, but whenever but especially during that time when he was a bit more active on Twitter, he would say some pretty brutal stuff to anyone that brutalized him online.
Really?
So I used a similar maneuver, and I started like brutalizing like in retaliation because they brutalized me. But I think I took it to too much of an extreme, to the point that I let the Sunni Muslims mislead me.
Yeah, this is
because I was
Sunni
also
Islam.
hanging around a lot of Sunni Muslims, and they were treating me with kindness, and I thought maybe I should give Islam, like proper Islam, a try. So I come like a tekfiri for a little bit, and I do a few streams with the Sunnis, and then I have my aha moment. At least I could see it like within 3 months rather than another 7 years. But it's like, this is just the same experience over and over again. I'd rather not be a part of this. And it's like I don't even believe in this. I strictly believe in evolution. I strictly believe that the Big
You're
Bang.
a science guy. You're a rational guy. You're a science guy. So I'm assuming you're an agnostic atheist now.
Yeah, I am an agnostic atheist. Yes, like I'm more of an empiricist. Like, show me proofs or I won't believe it.
Yeah, that's a fair position to take, and unfortunately, a lot of religious people don't understand that it is also, call it deficiency or call it whatever you want. Our brains are wired in a certain manner that if there's no evidence, then we can't convince ourselves to believing in something that you believe in because your brain might be wired differently. I'm glad that you got out of that, and I'm glad that you've got your life back. I wish you best of luck with your daughter. I mean, obviously that is something that is a part of you, and you would want to maintain your relationship with her. And I know it would be so difficult dealing with all the things that are associated with that. But unfortunately, that's life, I guess. But at least you've got your life back, and I
Yeah, because I guess like I can see through manipulation. Like they'll try to use anything with you. They'll even use your own children against you.
oh yeah,
And I know of stories of other people that actually had that happen to them. Like a few other ex members, like and I remember, and that's definitely what also convinced me to leave as well. I remember, that friend I was referring to earlier, he told me of a story of another Ahmadi Muslim convert that started questioning, and his wife basically threatened to take away all four of their children away from him if he were to ever leave. So when I left with the intention that even if they used my own kid against me, I have to remain firm for the sake of my own well being. Like,
mm,
yes, it sucks that I don't get to raise my child, but also they had the cards stacked up against me from the very beginning. That religion had the cards stacked up against me from the very beginning. I got, I got deceived. I got, tricked into doing this marriage, and clearly, like it wasn't a good match. Like we thought that, God somehow put us together, and then reality hit. And then that's when I realized why many men are not marrying born Ahmadi women, because I noticed that there is a bit of a gap between Ahmadi women and Ahmadi men in terms of, I guess, I don't know, their spiritual training. And that's reflected in the fact that many of them, the Ahmadi men, they're marrying outside of the Ahmadiyya community. And I think it's because they can see through the schemes of the religion, and also they do not like the strict culture that's the Jamaat is trying to put on
imposed.
everyone,
Mm,
especially the women. I think they just don't want to deal with nosy, from their perspective, like nosy uncles and aunties. Like, because in that culture, like everyone's very nosy. It's a very tightly knit
yeah.
community. I got to see that for myself many times through both the guy that converted me and also uh, that family I was with. Like, everybody is just keeping tabs. It's like Big Brother. Like,
Mm.
I do
What?
want to add, like, one more thing. I'm glad I also got to see a therapist like before and after I left the community, because there was clearly like a lot of unprocessed trauma that I had like since childhood, and then of course from the religion itself. Like at first I thought that, okay, this will help me improve my faith, but then I realized no, the faith is actually elongating the traumas, and it's actually working against the traumas. So instead, like that's what's was another factor in my decision to leave the religion. I realized I didn't need religion to become a better person, but rather I needed therapy.
Yeah, that's a
And
good message.
that's definitely something I want to say to anyone that
Yeah,
thinks of joining Islam, or even think of leaving it. Like, make sure that you have good people around you. Make sure you don't get misled by the wrong crowd. And if you do think of joining Islam, make sure there's no undiagnosed mental health condition that's causing you to feel certain ways. Like, it's best just to see a therapist, because there are techniques where it can help you to improve your life. Like, what I do, aside from the therapy that I've learned, is I also do a lot of meditation. I practice mindfulness, because the neuroscience shows that the more frequent one is in meditation, the more healing can begin. Like, it can definitely help the neurons to form better connections and to help heal the trauma.
excellent. I was just going to ask you. I was going to wrap up this interview with this question: what message would you give to anyone who's thinking about joining Islam? And I think you summed it up perfectly, which I have noticed this theme that when people are getting sucked into joining Islam, for some reason, they lose their support group around them. Either that's by design, or it's just you don't want anyone in your life. But I think it's so important because when we look into other abusive situations as well, whether it's a guy trying to abuse a woman or a child or whatnot, the first thing that they target, they try to isolate you. So you can't have your support group around you who can talk you out, who can discuss things with you. And obviously, in your case, I think in the case of Angelica as well, that happened. And I think in almost every case, that's what happens. I think Joanne was also going through something similar when she met her Muslim husband. I don't want to overplay our own importance, but I understand that why when people are joining Islam or thinking about joining Islam, they tend not to listen to the critics of Islam for some reason. And you, as you showed it, Angelica showed it, because at that point you're desperate to try something new. So it's a part of a human feature. We have this cognitive dissonance. We can put certain thoughts behind because we don't want to believe in. But more important than us is your support group. Have your friends around you. And please read the fine print. I see so many Westerners these days who are taking these photos and videos and showing how happy they are with Islam, and it's a beautiful religion, it's liberated me, this and that, all that nonsense. And I'm just like, I wish you best of luck, but sooner or later you're going to realize that what you're going through is your personal circumstances that is making you run away. So it's a form of escapism for you. And is it worth it? I wish you best of luck, but as far as I'm concerned, I have read this religion in great detail. I'm sorry to say, there's nothing special about this religion. There's no divinity. There's no creator in there. There's no master of the universe telling you how to sit on the toilet and how little a girl should be when you have an intercourse with her. The creator of the universe is not interested in that. But on that note, I wish you best of luck, Damon. Thank you very much for sharing your story. And I hope that serves as a lesson to other people as well. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.